Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to this August 19 Great Falls Public Schools Board of Trustees meeting. And I would like to remind us all that due to recent Montana legislation, our meetings will be recorded and posted on the district's website at some point in the future. Just a reminder. Also, our technology director has asked me to remind my fellow trustees that because of this recording that's taking place, please do speak into the microphone. And if you don't hear your own voice in the room, then it's not going to be picked up on the recording. So please do speak up and clear into the microphone. It's a little different than what we've experienced in the past, so it'll take some getting used to. I see some people grimacing and great. All right. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Patrick, would you please administer the roll call?
Gordon Johnson.
Here.
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 Mark.
Here.
Amy Thompson.
Here. Here.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Finicum.
I would move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda as presented. Are there any questions or comments from my fellow trustees? Any questions or comments from the people joining us in the room this afternoon? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of adopting the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have an agenda from which to work. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Tarosky.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Are there any questions or commentary from our trustees at the table this evening? Any questions or commentary from our guests in the room? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. We have our consent agenda taken care of. Thank you very much. Moving on to communication. Malmstrom Air Force Base, communication. And I'm going to invite our friend Lisa Sapp to the lectern. Nice to have you here. Here we are.
So, good evening, Chairman Johnson, Superintendent Hoyer, and members of the board and guests. So, tonight I will be briefing the summer's professional development opportunities for Great Falls Public Schools teachers, the Military Family Information Fair, and two upcoming community events hosted by Malmstrom Air Force Base. So, this past summer, I hosted 77 Great Falls Public School teachers on the installation. Now, the data is a little skewed because some of the teachers came out more than once, but I'm counting them individually because it sounds more impressive. So in June, we had a 2-day PIR that was conducted. So on day one, teachers received a mission brief, visited our missile trainer in preparation for their visit to the missile alert facility. So on day two, the teachers were able to go visit Charlie 1, which is past Belt, about an hour east of us, and visit with airmen in the field and go down into the missile facility and like visit with the folks who like to, turns all the knobs and flips all the switches. So that was a really unique experience to see. So if you've ever driven anywhere in and around Great Falls, you'll see those towers and these little shacks out in the middle of nowhere, and that's our missile alert facility. So Malmstrom is the biggest out of Air Force Global Strike. There is FE Warren, Malmstrom, and Minot. We have 13,800 square acres of missile field to cover, and so that was a unique experience. And now, we're going into a missile refresh coming with the Sentinel project. So all of that stuff is going to be upgraded and changed. So cool opportunity to see some of the old stuff before it disappears. And then last week we hosted a new PIR experience. So our first ever teacher mock deployment day. So we brought 31 or 32 teachers out to the base, and they were housed at the Grizzly Bend. If you've ever been out there, we did an out processing checklist. They were able to visit with several helping agencies and programs in preparation for their deployment. And then we're also given mock scenarios in the event that, like they had to navigate some interesting educational obstacles and before they left. And then in the afternoon, they were hosted by the 819th Red Horse and were deployed to the field. They were given a safety brief and, some good wishes. But they learned about the harsh conditions of deployment, the living and lodging situation of our military families when they're out and they're deployed, various risk factors. There was a simulated chemical attack. I got to throw a smoke bomb. There was some not live fire rounds. And then, like a bunch of other stuff. They do know how to conduct vehicle searches now. So they'll be ready for this school year. They'll be good. And then last week, oh, actually, so you'll see some of the pictures there. Dale Fulgham, Mark Yeager, and Lance Olson are the ones wearing the gas masks and holding the toy guns. They had a good time. So last week we had our annual military family information fair at Loy Elementary. Great turnout this year. We were able to provide resources, information, and a lot of support to several new military families. Operation Homefront provided 100 backpacks and school supplies. And then we just wanted to say thank you again to Great Falls Public Schools for hosting this annual event and coordinating. Special shout out to Miss Deneen Pate for all of the hard work that she put into that event. It was awesome. So next slide, please. All right, couple things coming up this Wednesday. Colonel Voorhees, our new wing commander, is hosting his very first fall town hall as a touch point for the command team and the military installation to just relay some important safety, school, helping agency, and community program information. I think Miss Jackie Mainwaring and Mr. Lance Boyd will be out offering some information to our families. It will be live streamed on Facebook, but if you can make your way out, highly encourage in-person attendance. If you'd like to submit questions ahead of time, there is a QR code on the flyer. Let's see. Oh, next on September 5th, we are doing another Sentinel Town Hall. On the 4th of September, they will be in Lewistown, again at the Fergus County Fairgrounds. And then on September 5th, Sentinel will be hosting another town hall for the Great Falls community at the CMR auditorium this time. We don't play favorites with our high schools, so we did one at Great Falls High School, and we'll do one at CMR. Date is September 5th from 6 to about 7:30. There will be some updates since January in regards to some of the progress being made and some of the new developments in the program. Highly encourage you all to come out. There will also be a QR code when that flyer comes out to ask questions. And then once again, we would like to thank Great Falls Public Schools for allowing us the use of their facilities and for working with us to bring this information to the Great Falls community. And so, pending your questions, that's my report to the board.
Any questions for Lisa Sapp? Thank you very much, Lisa. Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you for being here, and do pass on our best regards to our friends at Malmstrom.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to communication B, Superintendent Hoyer.
I have a question. Can I interrupt for a second? Did you have all of those new teachers in this room this morning? How did that happen? Wow.
Good. Looks good.
of you have heard me talk about our peer mentor group, and you'll probably hear more about that in October when I do the Safe Schools presentation. Our peer mentor group, which started with 7 and now has over 200, again, focusing in on training our mentors, our students about mental health and having those conversations, and then them, taking that information out to kind of be that resource and liaison between, their classmates and their peers. So we were honored on August 7th with the Safe Schools Youth Spotlight Award, which came with $1,000 for us to continue diving into the work that we're doing. But the real heroes and the real champions of this are our mentors. And so I would love for you to hear from these incredible people.
Hello, I'm Madeline Hall.
Hi, I'm Marin Marshall.
I'm from CMR. I'm going to be a senior this year. I've been a part of peer mentor group since around second semester of sophomore year. And I know we don't have a lot of time, but I just wanted to say why I think it's really important that we have it and why it's important for me. So I began peer mentor group because I saw little affirmation cards around the school, and it just made me feel like warm and welcome. And so I asked my school counselor if I was able to join. And I've been here for quite a while now, and I feel like we've just made such a big change because a lot of students don't feel like they have somebody to talk to, um, because they might be scared to talk to a teacher. And so we get to be that backbone for a lot of students. So I think that's really important for them, but it also is really important to me.
So I'm going to be a freshman at Great Falls High this year. So most of my peer mentor experience was at East. I joined when it started at East as a 7th grader and have really enjoyed just getting to work with them, with the counselors there, and get it started. We focused a lot on making sure everyone feels included and helping everyone know that everyone matters and that they should belong here. And so I've really enjoyed doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. You are incredible. Thank you. Well, thank you, Mrs. Hoyer. That was a very nice report. There's a lot of good things happening already. Any questions for Mrs. Hoyer from our trustees? Again, thank you very much. I have not received any cards to speak before this board, so we'll move beyond audience communication into action items. And we'll start with action item A, which is revised charter school contract with the Montana Board of Public Ed. And I understand, Mr. Patrick, you'll be taking us through this.
Yeah, what you have before you is the charter school information that was presented way back when. We signed a contract. It's gone through some modifications, and these have all improved the reporting side of it. So the recommendation, it's quite long and drawn out, but the recommendation is to approve the changes. They're all good for clearing up some of the questionable things that occurred when they initially came out with all the language on the charter schools. So my recommendation is to approve the changes as presented.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Trustee Churowski.
I move that we approve the revised contract for charter between Great Falls Public Schools and the Montana Board of Public Education as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the revised contract for charter between the Great Falls Public Schools and the Montana Board of Public Ed as presented. Are there any questions or comments from our Board of Trustees? My understanding is that all of these changes are to our benefit and do clear things up. Any questions or comments from our citizens in the room tonight? If not, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the revised contract between the schools and the Montana Board of Public Ed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Action item B, 23-24 trustees financial summary. Mr. Patrick again.
Okay, we touched on this during our work session, and you had a link to the board agenda. It's a comprehensive report. It's done annually. It closes out the fiscal year books so we can establish the new balances to begin the year. And as a board member, you might question about how do we know if it's right? It's pretty long, pretty complicated. The auditors go over it thoroughly. If there was something wrong in it, they would pick it up and report it as part of the audit. So with that, my recommendation is to approve the TFS, the Trustees Financial Summary, as is located on our webpage.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Finicum.
after spending a lot of time over the weekend actually looking through that, I would recommend that we approve the trustees' financial summary that closes out the 23-24 fiscal year as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the trustees' financial summary that closes out the 23-24 fiscal year. Are there any questions or comments from our trustees beyond what Mr. Finicum shared? And thank you for that. That's very reassuring, by the way.
And I'll also throw in there, Brian, thank you to your team that puts that animal together because that is quite a document. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any questions or comments from our citizens in the room tonight? Hearing seen none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of approving the trustees' financial summary that closes out the 23-24 fiscal year, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you again. Action item C, budgets for all budgeted funds for 24-25 fiscal year. Mr. Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And for the members of the community that are here tonight, last Thursday night we had a work session that was about an hour and a half long where we went through these in great detail and talked about the 10 budgeted funds, both in the elementary and the 10 in the high school, and the dollar amounts that were set and why they're set. And it's important to understand tonight as a board that what you're approving are the dollar amounts of the budgets. There were some phone calls that were and emails that were transpired on Friday where our county commissioners are working. They had conversations with the Department of Revenue. They're working on doing some things with the Calumet tax evaluation. So that could change and probably will change the number of mills that are levied. So when I talk about a 13.74 mill reduction, that's probably a lie in this board prep sheet. But the reality is the dollar amounts don't change, just like you learned with the water that we played with on Thursday night. Is the dollar amounts stay the same regardless of the taxable valuation. And if it changes, basically, if taxable valuation goes down, it just gets spread out amongst all the taxpayers. So with that, Mr. Chair, my recommendation would be to approve the budgeted funds as presented in the board agenda item. And usually one of the board members, the chairman of the committee, agrees to read the amounts. I won't do that, so we do it twice. So I will make the
Chair of the
recommendation to
committee.
approve the
Lucky you.
budgeted amounts.
If I had my cheaters, I would
I
love to
can,
do that.
I
Would
can
you?
do it. Sure.
Thank you.
Trustee Trasky, you're so good at this. Yes.
I move that we adopt the 2024-2025 budgets for the elementary school district. General fund $54,382,502.06. Transportation fund $3,945,075. Bus depreciation of $64,447.67. Tuition fund of $2,473,943.26. Retirement fund of $8 million. Adult education of $551,272. Technology of $521,648.87. Flexibility of $864,081.58. Debt service of $3,463,143.76. And the building reserve for $3,494,884.14. And the high school district general fund of $26,712,777.57. Transportation fund of $1,868,682.10. Bus depreciation of $39,524.46. Tuition fund of $801,970.36. Retirement fund of $4,500,000. $4,500,000. Adult education of $558,874. Technology of $127,896.43. Flexibility of $466,383.58. Debt service of $4,146,681.26. And the building reserve for $1,451,466.52.
Second. Yay.
Well done. Thank you. Been moved and seconded to approve the elementary school district general fund and the high school general fund as so skillfully enumerated by Trustee Tarosky. Are there any questions or comments from our Board of Trustees? Trustee Bronson.
Couple of questions for Mr. Patrick, if you don't mind. Mr. Patrick, obviously, again, we really appreciate the work that you and the staff have put in, to the budget and the budget committee members. We've been absorbing this for the last few months. But a couple of things. One, I took note earlier in the consent agenda. We've continued to receive requests from families of students outside the district to have their students come into our district. All of this obviously is under that new legislative regime that was set up last year. I'm curious as yet, are we seeing any trends yet in terms of the people coming in as opposed to those going or leaving our district, going elsewhere?
Yeah, I would say it's very similar to what we had in the past where students from our district were leaving to go to other districts and vice versa. Those students from other districts that are coming into our district. As far as budgetary impact, tuition is a year behind. So this
Yep.
will be in play for next year's budget. We'll have the exact dollar amount figured and impact because there's a difference between the taxable valuation of each county and yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of things, but I'd say it's pretty consistent.
No major changes one way or another. Okay. The other question I had relates to the institution of the charter school. It was my understanding when the legislature passed this particular bill that there might be an opportunity for additional funding to districts that had the schools. Are we in a position yet to know whether or not we might receive any additional funding in connection with the core school?
Yeah, with the core school, late this spring, we learned that it's about $100,000 difference in funding, and that's on a per A and B basis. It's based on a higher amount for the charter school students, and it impacted our overall general fund budget by about 100,000.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any questions remaining from our Board of Trustees? I just want to once again thank you, Mr. Patrick, for taking us through this information on Thursday night at our work session. That was very illuminating for each and every one of us, including your exercise and displacing water for money. And then we were presented with these very incredibly useful and valuable documents here that has a great wealth of information that we can go to at any time in the coming year. And thank you again for that.
Yeah, one other comment for the public that wasn't at the meeting is we're seeing a substantial increase from the state in our bond payments as far as help from the state in making that payment. This year, the state allocated $15 million. Last year, it was 2.5. The impact that has on our elementary bond payment is the state is paying $1,112,881. In the high school, it's $579,979, and last year was about 186.
Mm.
So that's a direct tax savings to our taxpayers. And it all has to do with guaranteed tax base and leveling out rich versus poor. It's the state's way of saying, hey, we're helping those districts that pass bonds, just like we would at the general fund. So that was a huge impact on our finances. Just wanted to clarify that for the public.
Thank you. And before we vote on this, are there any questions or commentary from our citizens in the room tonight? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of adopting the 24-25 budgets for the elementary school district general fund and high school district general funds, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with thanks to Mr. Patrick and many thanks to our trustees who serve on the budget committee. Moving on, action item D, second reading of new, revised, and deleted board policies. Is this yours, Mrs. Hoyer?
Johnson. So this is a culmination of our summer work that actually started with Superintendent Moore back in June. Then we tabled a couple of these, brought it back again for the first reading August 5th, and then tonight for the second reading. So before I begin the Tuesday teaching update, it was good idea to look at board policies. It is Brian, who's been volunteering with us, Luke Kingcom can join us as well. Jackie and Lance are there, Sherry is there, Alex is there, Rodney Colton, so thank you, Rodney, for doing all of that. And then Trustee Bronson would also be on those policies. So just a quick summary for you, we are deleting a whole bunch of them as recommended by the TSBA and the committee. Those policies are listed for you on the screen. So 2309 change of hands, NF2 and NF3. The 2310R and 2311, so 11F1 and 11R, 2314, 2314F1 and 14F2. And then we have new policies that we did the first reading of, 2309, 2311, and 2314. 2314 and 3611 were brought forward on August 5th. Those 3611 specifically speaks to the gangs and gang activity and the social media. And then when we revisited 2314, that was when we reevaluated the forms to support 2314 and felt that our form that was in place should actually stay. We selected that one. I have received no public input at this time on the second reading, so my request is a do pass on these readings or these policies.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Hoyer regarding these policies that are before us this evening? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Trustee Bronson.
at this time I move that the board approve the following recommendations with respect to the policies I will list here. That we delete delete policies 2309, 2310, 2310 F2, 2310 F3, 2310R, 2311, 23R, 23F1, 2311R, 2314, 2314 F1, 2314 F2. Further, that we adopt new policies 2309, 2311, 2314, and that we adopt the revised policies 2314F and 3611.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve new or deleted or revised policies as listed by Trustee Bronson in this motion. Are there any further questions from our Board of Trustees? Any further questions or commentary from our citizens? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And again, with thanks to Superintendent Hoyer and the policy team. It's a lot of work, a lot of reading, a lot of time, but very, very important to the operation of the Great Falls Public Schools. So this is very deeply appreciated. This work is very deeply appreciated. Moving on to action other, there is nothing pulled off the consent agenda, so we can move on to reports, discussions, and policies. I'll start to the far right with Trustee Sunchild.
We have several that were already here. I don't have the numbers exactly. We released 10 more students off the waiting list this past Friday. That was kind of a numbers game. How many do we want to do? Because you don't know how many are going to move in. Some others from the neighborhood are still making a decision, so they can decide on 10. And if you follow them on Facebook, we had military families, PTA. They have quite a PTA president. She's a go-getter. And they did a bunch of workouts on the grounds. They did some shrubbery trim back. They did some edging, and it looks spectacular there. And it's really an all-hands project. It's amazing.
Oh, that's great. So do you say there's still some people on the fence as to whether or not, when's the deadline? It's got to be coming up.
I can't remember. I think I don't remember that exactly.
Yeah,
I don't remember the dates, and I don't have that written down. But they had a projected number of students they thought in the area that would stay in comparison to ones who did. And what happened is in the beginning we had a handful who said we're not going to come there, but they've since changed their minds, and so we're filling up quickly. And kindergarten, I know, was at a low kind of waiting.
Fun report. Thank you.
Oh, one more question for you, Mary. So is it like the number of students that are going to be in Morningside will be up from last year then? Significantly, probably?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was.
Thank you. Trustee Finicum.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of comments. Convocation is happening, bam, on our calendars. School is starting before we know it. Gosh, what a wonderful job. And looking around of what all is going on already, it's just kind of crazy. 70 something new teachers in our district. As I bombed through the parking lot this morning, there's a lot of different license plates out there. And I'm so glad that the community is coming together to make all of that stuff happen, because it takes a place to have them live everywhere. I want to just compliment Andrea on the peer mentor group. That is really cool. That's a neat thing. But then finding out that we got a 5th SRO, that is just the cream on the cake today.
That's nice.
I'm excited. And of course, having Detective Cunningham to be that person, that just rocks. Chair Johnson, I will not be here September 9th meeting. So just if you could make a note of that.
We'll make a note of that.
And
We'll miss
please
you, but
excuse-
thank you.
Please excuse me.
We will. Trustee Thompson.
Well, I'd like to first ditto on the SRO. That's really exciting news for our district to have that, and I'm very excited for our peer mentors to get some recognition as well. And then I guess the only other thing. Oh wait, no, I did also want to just point out, if you guys didn't know, one more cool thing about McLaughlin is that one of the doctors there that does the research is our very own Moses Levins, who graduated from CMR, and he got his bachelor's and master's and PhD all in Montana, and now is working at McLaughlin. So that's pretty good, cool, and awesome for our district to be proud of him as well.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's
Yeah.
good news. Thank you very much. Trustee Skornowski.
So I wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit about the peer mentors and really the impact that they're having at their schools. To see a program grow from 7 kids to 200 in such a short time, I think both reflects on the leadership um, and and their support of those students, but also just on the impact that it's having in those schools. It's certainly a program that both benefits the kids that are involved. It's literally, if you talk to those kids, their conversations that they're having with their fellow students are saving lives. Suicide, as we all know from past presentations, is a serious issue in our community, in all communities, and to have this kind of innovation in how to address this issue, I think is really wonderful and important and impactful, and it's changing the culture in our schools in addition to just impacting the students individually. So really, I just can't say enough about that effort. I also just wanted to make a note and thank Brian for all of the work that he puts into both obviously building the budget, but managing the budget, um, and really spearheading that effort throughout the year. Um, we all know that without your conservative and wise stewardship, today we would be looking at cutting drastic numbers of teachers. Um, without that kind of wise guidance, we would, literally $2.5 million we would be cutting today. So thank you so much for really your approach and your wisdom in guiding that budget. And then the last thing is just to note, there's so much work that's going on in our schools. We talked about the training, but certainly tomorrow morning I'll be at East Middle School at 8 a.m. where they're doing new student orientations. So while we think that school starts next Wednesday, it really started significantly earlier, and just there's so much excitement for kids. So thanks to the teachers and the administrators that are going to make that first day next Wednesday an amazing one.
Very good. Thank you. Trustee Bronson.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to echo what some of the other trustees have said about the decision to add another SRO. Regardless of who that person might have been, I think that was a very wise decision. But obviously, getting Officer Cunningham is a real plus. I can remember when she was sworn in as a new officer many years ago, and she's been an up-and-comer in the department, and she's very highly valued by GFPD, and we certainly value her contributions here, and I'm pleased that she signed on as a fifth. I think it'll make a huge difference. I also want to thank everybody who organized the Back to School Blast. I volunteered again this year, and I just find it to be an incredibly enriching experience. And I had mentioned to Superintendent Hoyer on Friday, I wish that a lot of our public could really walk through that day and see what we're able to do for so many young children and so many families in this community. And I appreciate that the community as a whole really steps up to the plate to contribute. And since I work the volunteer registration, I get to talk to a lot of these new folks. And from our young high school students who came to volunteer to the folks from several churches who said, I was just told to sign up, I'm here, what do I need to do? It really speaks well for our community. Third, to Superintendent Hoyer's earlier comment, thanks for mentioning the community conversations about the growth policy. Many of us were asked to sign up and attend the one on schools, so I'll be there later this week to listen to your superb wisdom that you have to share on the subject. And then finally, I just wanted to share a quick little story for all of our administrators and staff that just kind of points to the strength of our system. One of my neighbors in my neighborhood retired today after 20 years with the United States Air Force. And we had a celebration for him at his house yesterday with his family, our neighbors, and many of the folks that he works with out at Malmstrom. And of course, we were kidding him at some length. Well, now that you're retired at the ripe old age of 39, what are you going to do with your life? Oh, I'm going to stay here. I have another job, which he has. But he told everybody at the party that he said one of the things he really appreciates about moving to Great Falls, and even though he's retiring, is that he said, we are staying here. And one of the things that makes it easy for he and his wife to stay here, he said, is our schools. He said, my two sons can walk to a neighborhood school every day, September through early June. And it makes a huge difference to them having come from out of state, having lived in foreign countries. And it was really telling, not a sour word at all about their experience here. So for those of you who work for the school system, take that, for it's worth quite a bit. It's an observation from two parents in our system who really highly value what we do for our children. Thank you.
That is a good story. Thanks for sharing that, Trustee Bronson. Trustee Tarasky.
Just kind of going to echo some of the other things that were said. I will also be at those two meetings that you mentioned in your report, Ms. Hoyer. Thank you to Brian for all your work on the budget and your team, and thank you to Allie for all your work with our policy meetings. And I just want to give a shout out to our custodians and engineers who have worked all summer tirelessly, cleaning the schools, getting them ready for our kiddos next week, and all the teachers were able to get their classes ready, and so they've been working really hard all summer while no one else was there. So I think that they deserve a shout out, and that's about it.
Very good, thank you. And I'd like to draw your attention to the upcoming events posted on the board. We have convocation a week from today, 8 a.m., CMR Fieldhouse. And then on the 27th, a long-awaited core school ribbon cutting. It's been a long process, but very, very fun and interesting along the way. And then a board meeting on September 9 with all of us, with the exception of Trustee Finicum. And I'm just going to conclude by and I think I speak on behalf of all of us in the room. It's so stimulating. It's so fun to be in this position, to be at the very starting end of a new school year. And we're all so busy and we're also active. And I can't think of a better way to spend our time, whether it's on the administrative team or us trustees, I can't think of a better way to spend our time than investing in the well-being of our students and the success for our teachers so that they can do the best possible work they can in crafting these young people into incredible young citizens along the way. So with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good meeting.